Chapter 16. Saturday, early afternoon. Helmsman house fire. Doreen quickly wrote down the little bits of notes she got from that conversation. Sometimes, with Nan, you had to grab the tidbits when they popped out. Otherwise, they'd be gone forever. Doreen might not be any better herself, as she was so scattered with so much going on too sometimes. She had a hard time keeping track herself. With the information on a notepad, she shifted, trying to scan the last box. She was grateful when it was all done, because she still had to open all the PDFs and save them as the name of the related files. But as long as she had them scanned, they were preserved, and she could send a digital copy to Mac. She considered sending herself a copy of all the PDFs, and thought maybe she should get a second email address, just for secrecy. It wasn't lost on her that she talked and thought like danger was around her. Probably for the best with her involvement in cold cases, usually involving murders. But why would Steve pay out for a house fire? That was the thought that wouldn't let her go. Unable to stop herself, she got up, snatched her laptop, then sat down and typed in Helmsman arson house fire. Nothing came up. She sighed and realized the name Helmsman could be spelled a few ways, so tried several different variations. But it still resulted in nothing. She knew she would have to send Mac a message, but as soon as she did, he would know she was working Steve's case too, and then she would be in trouble again. It seemed like all she ever got into was trouble. Still, it would bug her until she knew more. For her own sanity, she sent Mac a message, mentioning the Helmsman fire and arson, and left it at that. Back in the living room, she dropped down again and went through more loose sheets of paper. And then she stopped cold because right in front of her were newspaper clippings. They were not related to anything that she knew about, but the top one read "Murdered." Whistling softly, she made sure the papers she had just sorted had nothing to do with this, and then carefully moved all the newspaper clippings off to one side. And that was when she found all the rest, a good 6 inches of paperwork and newspaper clippings. It didn't mean they were all from the same case, but all these articles and documents would have to be looked through. Not having a clue what to do with it all, she sorted through them and made sure everything she had put aside to throw away so far was really garbage. Then she got up and put the papers to discard into the recycling bin, so she couldn't mix up the stuff to keep with the stuff to toss. The recycling went out every second week, and it was due to go out this week, so that was perfect. She came back inside and sat beside her stack of newspaper clippings, wondering what she could do to keep it all together, because scanning these would likely be done manually, one by one. She went back to the garage, looking for a box or a bin or something for storage, and found one of the plastic bins she had planned to take to the thrift store. She pulled it out of the car, headed to the living room, and loaded all the newspaper clippings into it to keep them intact. Then she walked back to the scanner and stood there until the contents from Solomon's 4th box was done. When she finally finished the last one, she closed the boxes and deliberately grabbed an old blanket and put it over the top of them, effectively hiding the fact they were file boxes. It probably wouldn't make any difference, but as soon as she stacked other stuff on top of it, it would help it all to blend in. On that note, she grabbed a couple recipe books and tossed them on the top. She wanted it to look casual. Then she thought she'd ask Mac to store them in the secret area above the front hall closet the next time he was here. In the meantime, she'd keep the physical files here, in case she had any questions about labeling one of the PDFs. Then she might move all 4 of these inside the hall closet, awaiting Mac to move them up into the attic. Now in the living room, that left her with the 6 boxes from the Hope chest, and a plastic bin full of newspaper clippings. "Oh Nan," she said. "What a crazy web we weave." But then she stared at her wonderfully cleaned up house and smiled. "Thank you very much, my dear," she whispered to the empty room. "You have given me a gift I have yet to fully reap, but I know it's immense. Thank you, thank you, thank you." Then she snatched the box of letters, along with her bin of newspaper clippings, carried them to the kitchen, and put them on top of the case files. She sat down with a cup of tea to relax a bit before starting this last scanning session. It would take much longer, since she was dealing with cut-out newspaper articles and would have to place each by hand on the machine. But she knew she would feel so much better getting this all scanned in. After she was done, instead of renaming each doc, she just copied all these individual PDFs into one folder and named it Newspaper Clippings Found at Nan's House. She couldn't wait to get into those too, but she was definitely tired. Time to go to bed.